Adrian Foster who led the Torquay fight back, collecting a pass from Darren Moore before firing home the equaliser. Well, Torquay looked to have taken a stranglehold on things after that, as Tom Kelly put them in front 16 minutes into the second half, and Foster then struck his 7th goal of the season to make it 3-1. But Preston, despite having Neil Wally sent off, hit back within minutes with a goal from Tony Ellis. Winger Ian Hathaway calmed the Torquay nerves with arguably the best goal of the game. Even then, the excitement wasn't over as Gareth Ainsworth grabbed Preston's 3rd. But Torquay hung on for a win, which means they're now the only unbeaten team in the Ensley League.
Great win for Torquay. Set on.
Well, Torquay fans could be forgiven for becoming blasé about the sort of entertainment being dished up at Plainmoor these days. Saturday's thriller had a familiar plot as visiting Crewe took the lead through Wayne Collins. And when former Torquay striker Darren Rowbottom made it 2-0 on the stroke of half-time, it looked as if the home side were destined to surrender their unbeaten record. But the second half brought a dramatic change to the storyline, as Crewe's Neil Lennon deceived his own goalkeeper with a neat lob to put Torquay back in the game. It was just the spur the home side needed, and when keeper Mark Smith failed to hold Scott Colcombe's fierce drive, substitute Dwayne Darby was left to tap in the equaliser. 3 minutes later, Torquay's comeback seemed to be complete as Paul Trollope put the final touch to an Adrian Foster pass. But as with all good tales, there was an unexpected twist at the end as Crewe hit back to take a share of the points with a late equaliser from Ashley Ward. Well, Torquay always knew they faced a tough task against second division Bristol Rovers. The visitors put them under heavy pressure in the first half, but Torquay held out until 6 minutes of the second period, when Rovers Canadian defender Ian McLean forced the ball home at the second attempt. As is customary at Plainmoor these days, the goal was the signal for Torquay to mount a spirited fight back. But for once, their consistent assault failed to produce an equaliser, though Paul Trollope could count himself particularly unfortunate to have 2 efforts cleared off the line.
Headed by
Meadow, defending the only unbeaten record in the Ensley League, but having come from behind so often this season, they must have wondered if something was amiss when Adrian Foster put them ahead just before half-time. That's the way it stayed until 20 minutes from the end, when Torquay pushed the self-destruct button with an own goal from Tom Kelly. 9 minutes later, Dean Spink made it 2-1 when he headed home Gary Patterson's cross. Torquay should still have salvaged a point when player-manager Don O'Riordan headed his first goal for the club to level the scores, but the United defence then conceded its 14th goal in the last 5 league games, and Kevin Summerfield's strike was enough to end their proud unbeaten run.
Well, bad luck to Torquay. And the Brixton top. Well, for once, Torquay United's fans weren't treated to the usual Plainmoor goal glut, although in other ways the match with Rochdale followed the established pattern, with Torquay surrendering the early initiative and going behind to a goal from former Argyle winger Mark Stewart. But Torquay produced their familiar second-half fight-back, and while the goals may not have come in quantity, there was no doubting the quality of Tom Kelly's equaliser, which was enough to preserve United's unbeaten home record in the league.
And a golden goals contender as well, that one.
Torquay are also gaining a reputation for being brittle at the back, a fact that David Moss was happy to exploit as Chesterfield recovered from a first-half battering. And when United keeper Ashley Bayes could only palm away a corner, Jamie Hewitt was on hand to turn the tide firmly in favour of the home side. Another yawning gap in the Torquay defence gave Steve Norris the space to make it 3-0, and there was no way back after that, even for a side of Torquay's renowned grit. They did manage a consolation goal, though, with substitute Dwayne Darby forcing the ball over the line.
Torquay are the comeback specialists of the season, and they needed all their fighting qualities to salvage a point against Scunthorpe. The visitors took the lead midway through the first half when Andy Toman beat the offside trap and Ashley Bayes before guiding the ball into an empty net. Torquay would have been dead and buried but for a miraculous stop from Bayes early in the second half. Manager Don O'Riordan misjudged his header, and Matt Carmichael's first-time volley looked destined for the top corner until Bayes produced the save of the season so far. Then, as the game moved into injury time, Never Say Die Torquay mounted one final attack. Mark Sale used his height to guide the ball to Adrian Foster, and despite the close attention of 2 defenders, he slotted the ball past Mark Samways. So, another late show, but a well-deserved point from another entertaining game at Plainmoor.
At Plainmoor, Torquay United left it late to record their first win in Division 3 for more than 6 weeks. Player-manager Don O'Riordan finally breaking the deadlock against Northampton in the 82nd minute. And another good move involving O'Riordan produced a second goal for top scorer Adrian Foster 4 minutes later. Final score there, 2-0. Meanwhile, at Ninian Park, Torquay United were just 8 minutes away from the draw they needed to reach the next round. They'd put up a brave defensive performance to frustrate Cardiff, who needed a win to go through. But substitute Gary Thompson's 82nd minute goal spelt the beginning of the end for Don O'Riordan's side. Goalkeeper Ashley Bayes had performed heroics, but stood no chance with this one. And he was left exposed again 4 minutes from time as Cohen Griffiths broke free down the Cardiff right to set up striker Phil Stant for a clinical finish. It was the former SAS man's first goal for 2 months and clearly brought relief to a struggling Cardiff side. There was no way back for Torquay. Paul Trollope, Kevin Hodges and substitute Adrian Foster had all spurned chances to sink the home side. Their failure means Torquay's brief autoglass adventure is over for another season.
Cup action in...
No league club has ever lost to part-timers 3 years running, but Don O'Riordan views his first cup tie in charge as a fresh start.
I wasn't here, for one, and I feel at the moment the team's playing with a lot of confidence, and as I said, I'd pitch them in against anybody at the moment.
Torquay's hopes of breaking the jinx will be boosted by the return to fitness of Mark Sale. The tall striker has been plagued by injury and illness so far this season, but his availability gives O'Riordan an added dimension tomorrow.
Before, obviously, with Kevin and Adrian, or Dwayne and Adrian, we've been playing more to feed, but now we've got the option of hitting Mark in the air. So that really was the reason yesterday, so we could work a game plan out.
Well, on to rugby now. Well, sharing the points is becoming something of a speciality for Torquay. Saturday's draw was their 7th in 9 games at Plainmoor. Hereford took a 51st-minute lead through Chris Pike after Derek Hall had hit the post. Although Tom Kelly managed to hit the woodwork with a stinging drive, Torquay rarely looked like scoring until 4 minutes from time, when Paul Trollope, one of the few United players to emerge with much credit, forced home the equaliser. Well, after Torquay were back to their best at Scarborough, although they're probably still wondering how they failed to take the lead when Ian Hathaway's brilliant effort somehow stayed out of the net, despite the attention of teammate Adrian Foster. But the pair soon made amends, with Hathaway again supplying the cross for Foster to score his 11th goal of the season from slightly greater range. Scarborough hit back with an equaliser 6 minutes into the second half, when Sean Murray provided an unconvincing but nonetheless effective finish. It didn't take long for Torquay to put themselves back in front, though, Hathaway confirming his position as man of the match by rifling the ball home after Foster's shot had been blocked.
Southwest for the...
Upsets is Sutton United's famous third-round victory over Coventry City 5 years ago. This season, they're up to their old tricks again. Dave Jones making the most of a defensive error 13 minutes from time to send third division Torquay the way of Sutton's first-round league opponents, Colchester United. The Deodora League side thrilled to be back in familiar FA Cup territory. The receiver left...
United made the record books this weekend, but the Gulls won't be celebrating entering football folklore. They're the first league side to be knocked out of the FA Cup by non-leaguers 3 years running. On Saturday, it was Deodora Premier League minnows Sutton who performed the honours. Plasterer David Jones was the man responsible for the defeat with his 77th minute goal.
At the end of the day, as I say, we didn't do it. We've got to hold our hands up, got to be brave now. Next time we play here, the crowd are going to want a magnificent performance to try and win them back, and as I say, it's up to myself and the players to do it.
To put their FA Cup nightmare behind them was apparent even before Adrian Foster put them ahead at Wigan. And when Mark Sale added a second goal from Paul Trollope's deep cross, it was clear that their hosts were going to suffer the backlash from the previous week's defeat against Sutton. No one epitomised the change in United's outlook more than Chris Curran, whose first goal for the club turned out to be a real cracker. Having established a 3-0 lead by the interval, Torquay could afford to coast through the second half. Although Mick Kennedy pulled a goal back for Wigan, it was always going to be Torquay's day. Thornton will play at Plainmoor. Their performance improved, but their finishing didn't. And they paid the ultimate price for failing to put enough pressure on the visitors when they conceded a soft second-half goal. John Caster's harmless chip seemed to deceive the entire Torquay defence, but it was enough to bring an end to United's unbeaten home record in the league.
Meanwhile, Torquay had to settle for just a point against Wycombe Wanderers on Monday. Paul Trollope gave the Gulls a first-half lead when he converted Mark Sale's header. But once again, it turned out to be a frustrating afternoon. Despite countless chances throughout the match, Wycombe grabbed a share of the points with this 81st-minute equaliser from captain Terry Evans. Torquay's 10th draw of the season.
Meanwhile, Torquay's game at Bury tonight has been called off. The pitch at Gig Lane is still waterlogged. Peter Whiston misses Exeter City.
Before Christmas, Torquay United started the new year in fine style with a long-awaited Plainmoor victory over Mansfield on Saturday. United could and should have taken the lead in an action-packed first half, with the best chance falling to Ian Hathaway. As it was, Torquay had to wait until the 58th minute to score what turned out to be an extraordinary winning goal. Ironically, it was an action replay of one United conceded just a few weeks ago. Hathaway was again at the centre of the drama as his cross somehow evaded both the Mansfield defence and keeper Darren Ward. A late Christmas present for the home supporters and 3 points that took Torquay back up the table. Don O'Riordan's team rounded off an excellent festive period by picking up a point at Carlisle yesterday. It could have been even better because the home side's goal came from a hotly disputed penalty half an hour into the match. Despite the protests, referee Bob Hart pointed to the spot and captain Simon Davey duly obliged with the kick. Torquay were back on terms just a minute later. Mark Sale used his considerable height to nod down Ian Hathaway's cross for Adrian Foster to score with a powerful shot. His 13th goal of the season, giving Torquay a well-deserved reward for their long trip to the far northwest. There were one or two nervous moments late on, but Torquay go into 1994 with a realistic chance of reaching the end-of-season playoffs.
Yesterday's washout.
Third division victory at Doncaster. Mark Sale was the hero of the hour, going close early on before heading Torquay into a 26th minute lead from Tom Kelly's corner. After struggling to find his form earlier in the season, Sale's match-winning confidence is returning at just the right time to help United's promotion push. For their part, Doncaster were disappointing to say the least. Ashley Bayes was hardly troubled, and it came as no real surprise when Sale grabbed a second goal 15 minutes from time. Great build-up from Hodges, Kelly, Trollope and Foster, and the finish itself was relatively easy. So 2-0 the final score, and if they can string together a few home victories in the next month or two, Torquay will be looking forward to the end-of-season playoffs.
Well, meanwhile, there's speculation tonight that former Torquay striker Justin Fashanu could be poised to make a dramatic return to the West Country. Torquay United moved into the third division's top six thanks to an explosive start to their home match with Chesterfield. Foster, it's aimed in towards Mark Sale, and Torquay United take the lead. Less than a minute of the game gone. Mark Sale puts Torquay in front. A little fortunate with the luck of the bounce over on that far side of the field, but Adrian Foster getting the cross in. Mark Sale rising above the defence to plant the ball in the corner of the net. Sale's goal after just 47 seconds was one of the few highlights in a match which is in danger of being remembered for one unsavoury incident just before half-time, when Chesterfield defender Nicky Law felled Torquay's Paul Trollope in an off-the-ball incident. Torquay's players were clearly incensed, but neither referee Paul Durkin nor his two linesmen saw the incident, which was picked up perfectly by our behind-the-goal camera. Torquay were perhaps a little fortunate to hang on to their lead after coming under increasing pressure in the second half. But generally they defended well, and they might even have snatched a second goal through Mark Sale. The big striker showed that he's more than just an aerial threat by forcing Mick Leonard to make one of his few saves of the game. And as United extended their unbeaten run to 5 matches, their manager was in forgiving mood over the one moment of controversy.
It was one of them things that obviously happens in games. I'm not totally sure whether it was intentional or not. Nicky Law will know. Troll went down. He's not the sort of lad that feigns injury. But I'm not bothered about it now. Troll's not bothered about it. It's gone. It's part of the game. And as I say, we've won. We've got 3 points, which is the most important thing.
Its unbeaten run came to an end amid more controversy at Rochdale. Nick Burton, who was very much at the centre of things, put them ahead with a splendid strike after 28 minutes. But Rochdale hit back to equalise through Andy Thackeray right on the stroke of half-time. The turning point of the game came midway through the second half, when Burton was pulled up for what appeared to be a relatively innocuous challenge on Sean Reid. Referee Trevor West decided it merited a red card. Torquay were incensed enough afterwards to send a letter to the FA, asking them to look again at the decision. Rochdale certainly made their numerical advantage count after that, Dave Lancaster put them ahead with a 69th minute header, and the tall striker added a third goal after Reed, the Torquay fans had seen as the villain of the piece, had set up the opportunity. Rochdale's fourth goal arrived 5 minutes from time, courtesy of substitute Steve Whitehall. Already disappointing weekend, despite taking the lead against Chester with a cracking goal from Ian Hathaway. The Torquay allowed their opponents back into the game on the stroke of half-time, when Colin Greenall was presented with a relatively simple chance. Chester went on to dominate the second half and deservedly went in front through David Flitcroft's diving header. And Chester made certain of victory with a third goal from David Thompson 5 minutes from time. Torquay may now move into the transfer market in an effort to boost their flagging promotion challenge. Torquay United bounced back from a couple of disappointing defeats to put their promotion challenge back on the rails, despite going behind to a Matt Carmichael goal at Scunthorpe. Torquay were back on terms within 3 minutes when Dwayne Darby set up Paul Trollope for his 7th goal of the season. The visitors went on to dominate the second half, taking a well-deserved lead through Dwayne Darby after Adrian Foster had set up a simple chance. And Foster himself went on to score Torquay's third goal with a splendid individual effort to give him his 14th goal of the season. Torquay still in a playoff position then, who knows, they could be going through to Wembley at the end of the season. Well, two other teams with their sights very much on the Twin Towers are Tiverton and...
More Torquay United striker Dwayne Darby underlined why the club has recommended him and defender Darren Moore as candidates for the England under-21 squad. Darby produced a clinical finish to put the goals 2-0 up in their friendly against Huddersfield. But he was outgunned on the night by a contender for our next Golden Goals competition. Teenager Paul Hardy's left-foot strike was the pick of the bunch in a 3-3 draw. It may not have been the most significant of matches, but it did mark the senior debut of trainee Rodri Giggs, the younger brother of Manchester United star Ryan. Torquay's match with Doncaster was in danger of being remembered only for a nasty injury to Ian Measham, who was stretchered off with what was later diagnosed as a fractured vertebrae in his neck. He's expected to make a full recovery. Torquay's recuperation was somewhat less certain, despite taking the lead with a well-worked goal on the stroke of half-time. Adrian Foster providing the finishing touch for his 15th goal of the season. But they then surrendered the initiative by giving away a soft equaliser as Scott Colcombe's up-and-under clearance fell invitingly for Kevin Hume. But Torquay were thrown a lifeline in injury time when Paul Trollope was brought down in the box. New signing Paul Buckle took the responsibility for the penalty and made no mistake. His first goal for the club, lifting United into 5th place in the table.
Lift them into 3rd place in Division 3 and raise hopes of a sustained promotion challenge, as Martin Dean reports.
Torquay certainly didn't look like a side destined for the top 3 in the early stages of Saturday's game. Some woeful defensive work provided Robbie Painter with the simplest of chances to give Darlington the lead. But after a lacklustre first half, Torquay stepped up a gear, and it came as no great surprise when Ian Hathaway forced an equaliser after some great work from Dwayne Darby. Torquay dominated proceedings after that, but they had to wait until late into the game to secure their victory as Darby switched from goal maker to goal scorer. The match was soured in the closing stages when Gary Hemsworth's leg was broken following a clumsy challenge from Darren Moore. The foul earned Moore a booking, which will mean automatic suspension, though his manager feels he was hard done by.
I felt that Darren Moore played the ball and the ball went forward and their lad went in. I just felt that he wasn't as strong as Darren and he came off second best because of it.
Andy, their 4th win on the trot at Colchester, although there was an element of fortune about both their goals. Ian Hathaway's opener taking a wicked deflection. Colchester hit back with a splendid individual goal from Simon Betts, although Torquay must be kicking themselves for allowing him so much room. But Torquay weren't to be outdone. Kevin Hodges, whose fine form has been a key factor in their recent run, grabbed a well-deserved winner, the ball eventually bouncing over the line off his chest.
Just a step.
United were looking for their 5th successive victory on Saturday, and in the first half there was little to suggest that they wouldn't get it against a poor Gillingham side. But although Kevin Hodges and Adrian Foster both came desperately close to breaking the deadlock, Torquay couldn't quite produce the killer blow. And when player-manager Don O'Riordan injured himself pulling down the dangerous Nicky Forster and was forced to go off, some would argue that he might have been sent off, United seemed to lose their way. Gillingham suddenly began to do what they'd failed to do up until that point, threatened the Torquay goal. And the home side eventually paid the ultimate price. Back with Smiley. Again, chipped towards that far post. Again, a lot of bodies coming in. And that could well be in the net. It is. And Torquay United pay the penalty. Richard Green getting the congratulations. Really, it was Torquay, the architects of their own downfall.
After they were beaten at home last week by Gillingham, Torquay United's promotion hopes suffered another setback on the Preston Plastic. They were behind almost immediately. Gareth Ainsworth's cross finding Tony Ellis, who scored at the near post. Torquay's equaliser on the hour was Route 1 football at its finest. Ashley Bay's goal kick caught everyone but Paul Trollope napping, and after turning well in the box, he squeezed the ball home for his 8th of the season. Soon after, Preston were awarded a free kick on the edge of the penalty area, which was to turn the course of the match. First, Torquay